So dear students, today we will be learning regarding the connection for the steel structure. A steel structure is an assemblage of different elements which are connected, fastened to one another so as to act together. Connections act as a medium for transferring the force or load or movement from one member to another. The standard roll sections has fixed length, usually 30 meters, which may be lesser than the site requirements. Every element of a structure is oriented in different directions and are connected so as to act as a single composite unit. Following types of connections are utilized for the steel structure. First one is riveted connection, second one is bolted connection, third one is welded connection, fourth one is pin connection, and last one is combination of all the above. As far as our syllabus is concerned, we are dealing with bolted connections and welded connections. Now, many times a confusion may occur in anyone's mind. What does mean by bolt? What does mean by a nut? And what does mean by a washer? Technically, a bolt may be defined as a metal pin with a head at one end and a shank threaded at the other end to receive a nut. Shank means a body. Now, if you observe the diagram, you may observe that the straight part is called as an bolt. Then the hexagonal part is called as an nut. Now let us understand what does mean by washer technically. A steel washers are provided under the bolt as well as nut for distributing the clamping pressure on the bolted member and to prevent threaded portion of the bolt from the bearing on the connecting piece. Now if you observe the diagram clearly, this bolt is being tightened by the nut. Whenever the pressure is occurring on the head portion, this washer, whenever it is being provided, it distributes the pressure evenly, also keeps the bolt to be in one position. Then classification of the bolt. Classification of the bolted connections. Bolts are classified as first one depending upon the force transferred, second one based upon the types of force, and third one is based upon the force mechanism. So the first classification, that is depending upon the force transferred. First one is the concentric connections, that is the load is passing through the center of through the CG, that is nothing but the butt joint. When the load is eccentrically loaded, load is eccentric and the load is acting away from the center of gravity, it is a lap joint. When moment resisting connections, the joint subjected to the movement, that is beam and column or the brackets. Then the best depending upon the types of force, first one is shear force connection, the joint is called as lap and butt joint. Tension connections called as hanger connection. Combine of shear and tension, it is called as an bracing. Then depending upon the force mechanism, bearing type connections and friction type connection. The bearing type connections, that is bolt bear against the hole to transfer the force, and last second one is friction type, that is force is transferred by the friction. After studying different types of the connections, we have to look over what does mean by, so what are the different types of the bolts which are being utilized for designing a connection. The first one is unfinished or a black bolt, and second one is high strain bolts. The high unfinished or black bolts, the bearing types of bolt, it is also called as ordinary, common, rough bolt. made from mild steel rod with a square or a hexagonal head. The nominal diameter of unfinished or a black bolt is 12 mm, 16 mm, 20 mm, 24 mm, 30 mm, and 36 mm respectively. And they are commonly used for temporary structures. Then, then comes the high strength bolts. They are made from medium carbon heat treatment steel and from alloy steel. It has high strength 2 or more times than the ordinary bolt. They are available in a size from diameter 16 mm to 36 mm. Now, if you look at the diagram, from the diagram, we can easily identify which one is the black bolt and which one is the high strength bolt. Then the grade and designation of the bolt. If I say grade of the bolt is 4.6 M20, then 20 mm is the diameter of the bolt. Then how to identify the yield tensile strength and ultimate tensile strength and yield stress. IS 1367 part 3 gives us detailed idea about it. Now, when I say grade of bolt is 4.6, then we have to multiply 4 by 100. Hence, the ultimate tensile strength of the bolt is 400 MPa. And then we have to multiply that 400 by remaining 0.6, means 4.6 remaining is 0.6, and multiplying the 400 by 0.6, we get Fy is equals to 240 MPa. In the table, you may come to know the different FUB and FYB. The same table is also available in our IS 800 2007. The advantage of bolted connection is that connection can be made easily. Erection of the structure is speedy. Less skilled persons are required. Less skilled equipments are required. Cost of construction is less. Now, types of the bolted connection. First one is the lap joint. Second one is the butt joint. What does mean by lap joint? First, let us understand it from the definition. Then we will be moving towards the diagram part. Lap joint, two members are overlapped and connected together. It may be single or double bolted lap joint. See here in the diagram, I am showing it by the cursor. Whenever there are two members which are placed one over the another and they are connected by a bolted connection, then it is called as a, by single row of bolt, it's called as a single bolted lap joint. Then if the number of bolts, row of bolts are 2, then it is called as a double bolted lap joint. Then butt joint, two members to be connected are placed end to end. An additional plate is provided on either or one side is known as, also called as a cover plate. Here, when two members are to be connected at a single position or at a one plane, that time we utilize the butt joint. Here cover plate is utilized to connect the members. That is, it is nothing than cover plate act as a medium to connect these two members. Whenever single cover plate is utilized, it is called as a single bolted. When double cover plate is utilized, it is called as a double cover bolted joint, butt joint. The second diagram gives us idea regarding double cover single bolted butt joint, and the first diagram gives us idea regarding the single cover single bolted butt joint. Then Specification of the bolted connection. From table number 19, page number 73 of IS 800/2007, we get idea regarding the clearance of the bolt for the fasteners. Here in the table, there are several columns. The first one is the serial number. Second one gives us nominal size of the fastener, that is the diameter of the bolt. And then the other columns gives us standard clearance distance of the in the diameter, in terms of the diameter. Then over clearance is the diameter, clearance in the length of the slot. Now in the diagram you may come to know that the diameter of the threaded portion and the clearance of the hole is clearly given to us. Now for an example, let us see that if the nominal size of the fastener is 12 mm to 14 mm, that time the standard clearance distance is of 1 meter. Means whenever suppose my diameter of the bolt is 12 mm, that time my diameter of the hole is 13 mm. And all these things are being calculated from the table number 19, page number 73. Coming to the next point, that is nothing but the pitch of the bolt. It is the pitch of the bolt. We get idea regarding it from clause number 10.2.2, page number 73 of IS 800/2007. The distance between center to center of the center to center distance between two consecutive bolts in a row measured along the direction of the row of the load, it's called as pitch distance. Here this distance between center to center distance between two consecutive bolts in the direction of the loading, it is called as an pitch distance. Now clause number 10.2.2 gives us idea regarding the pitch distances, how much it should be. The first is the pitch distance shall not be less than 2.5 times the diameter of the bolt. Second is it should not exceed, minimum it is 2.5 times the diameter of the bolt. And second one is it should not exceed 16 times the thickness or 200 mm, whichever is less in the case of tension member, and it should not exceed 12 times the thickness or 200 mm, whichever is less in the case of the compression member. For the butt joint, the pitch distance should not exceed 4.5 times the diameter of the bolt. Then the third terminology is the gauge distance. The center to center distance of a consecutive bolts of adjacent row and measured perpendicular to the direction of the load. Here in the diagram we come to know about the gauge distance. In a simple wording, the distance, center to center distance between two consecutive row of the bolt is nothing but the gauge distance, and it is measured perpendicular to the direction of the loading. Now this gauge distance shall not exceed 100 plus 4 times the thickness of the member or 200 mm, whichever is less, and it should not be less than 2.5 times the diameter of the hole. One thing one should keep in the mind, that for the pitch distance we are utilizing the diameter of the bolt, whereas in the gauge distance we are utilizing the diameter of the hole. ds is nothing but the diameter of the hole. And the last one is the end or the edge distance. It is the distance of center of the bolt from the adjacent edge of the plate. Here in the diagram, the distance perpendicular to the loading and measure from the end towards the consecutive hole, center of the hole, it's called as an edge distance. This E shall not be less than 1.7 times the diameter of the hole for the hand flame edges. Then E should not exceed 1.5 times the diameter of the hole for the machine flame edges. Then E should not exceed 12T, that is 12T, that is the thickness of the thinner element, or it should not exceed 40 plus 4 times the thickness. Now here, let us clear, or let me highlight this term thickness of the thinner plate. If there are two plates of 10 mm and 12 mm, that time we utilize thickness of the plate as 10 mm. So these are some terminologies and a brief introduction for the bolted connections. In next lecture, we will be designing the bolted connections for the tension members. So keep watching and subscribe the channel. Thank you.